Welcome, Fear Seekers. Tonight, we dive into 3 spine-chilling tales that will haunt your dreams. Venture into the eerie depths of a newly reopened hotel, where room's dark past awakens to claim its next victims. Hold onto your seats and keep your lights on. It's going to be a night filled with dread and darkness. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we unravel the secrets that lurk in the shadows. Let the terror begin.
Claire Thompson adjusted the rear-view mirror as she pulled up to the Grand Hotel, her eyes scanning the imposing structure through the thick, swirling fog. The once grand edifice loomed in the darkness, its silhouette a testament to a bygone era of opulence now shrouded in decay. The grand lobby, dimly lit and filled with the echoes of a distant past, greeted her with an unsettling silence. The receptionist, an elderly woman with hollow eyes, handed Claire the key to room 323 with a barely perceptible shiver. "Good luck," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Claire's curiosity was piqued by the clerk's ominous tone, but she brushed it off as superstition. As Claire entered room 333, she was struck by the contrast between the faded luxury and the overwhelming sense of neglect. The heavy curtains of the canopy bed were tattered, and dust clung to every surface. The large mirror, framed in tarnished gold, reflected the dim light of her flashlight, casting eerie shadows across the room. Night fell, and with it came the first signs of something amiss. Claire heard faint whispers that seemed to seep through the walls, speaking in hushed tones about past tragedies and untold horrors. The temperature dropped suddenly, and Claire's breath misted in the chilling air. She dismissed these occurrences as the result of the hotel's age and poor maintenance, but her skepticism began to waver. Claire's investigation into the hotel's history led her to discover an old journal hidden in a drawer of the writing desk. The journal belonged to a previous occupant, detailing disturbing accounts of hauntings and disappearances. Each entry became more frantic, describing an unseen presence that tormented the writer. The descriptions matched the eerie phenomena Claire was experiencing: flickering shadows, unexplained cold spots, and disembodied whispers. The following day, Claire met other guests in the hotel's lobby. Among them were James, a historian with a keen interest in the supernatural, and several travelers who had come to the hotel seeking its infamous allure. They shared their unsettling experiences, each recounting similar occurrences, shadows moving on their own, whispers in the dead of night, and a pervasive sense of dread. As the sun set, the hotel seemed to come alive with malevolent intent. Shadows flickered across the walls, and the whispers grew louder, forming a discordant chorus of despair. The guests' anxiety mounted as they experienced vivid nightmares and sudden drops in temperature. The oppressive atmosphere of room 333 began to take its toll, causing paranoia and fear to spread among them. James, driven by his historical research, uncovered a series of tragic events linked to room 333. The record spoke of disappearances, deaths, and a sinister presence that had long haunted the room. The shadow entity, he discovered, was an ancient force that fed on the fear and suffering of its victims. It had trapped countless individuals within the room, consuming their souls and leaving behind only empty shells. As the entity's influence grew stronger, the guests found themselves facing nightmarish visions and disturbing phenomena. The hotel's corridors seemed to warp and twist, and the shadows took on grotesque forms. The temperature plummeted, and the entity's whispers became a cacophony of horrifying voices that drove the guests to the brink of madness. Claire realized that the only way to escape was to confront the entity directly. With James's help, she deciphered the clues in the journal and uncovered a ritual described by previous occupants. A ritual that might offer a chance to banish the entity, or at least trap it within the room. The ritual required specific incantations and symbolic gestures, and the guests worked together to perform it. The room transformed into a chaotic vortex of darkness as the ritual reached its climax. The shadows coiled and writhed, and the air became thick with an oppressive cold. Claire and the survivors struggled to complete the ritual, their fear palpable as the entity's presence grew more intense. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the whispers became a deafening roar. In a desperate bid for survival, Claire managed to complete the final incantation. The shadows recoiled, and the temperature began to rise. The entity's influence diminished, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The hotel fell eerily silent, and the once menacing presence of room 333 seemed to retreat. The Grand Hotel, though still standing, was forever changed by the events of that night. Claire and the survivors left the hotel, their minds haunted by the memories of their encounter with the shadow entity. The Grand Hotel remained a place of dark history and lingering malevolence, a chilling reminder of the darkness that could lurk behind the facade of history. As Claire drove away, she glanced back at the hotel's imposing silhouette. The fog had lifted, and the hotel was now just a shadow against the morning sky. She knew that some stories were better left untold, and some shadows were best left undisturbed. The Grand Hotel and its cursed room 333 would remain a haunting chapter in her life, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lie hidden within the most unexpected places. The Grand Oak Boutique Hotel stood proudly on the edge of a charming old town, its Victorian architecture a relic of a bygone era. Newly renovated, it boasted a blend of modern luxury and historical charm, drawing visitors with its promise of comfort and elegance. However, amidst its opulent decor, Room 13 had earned a reputation for strange occurrences that defied logical explanation. Zoe Miller, a 34-year-old travel writer with a penchant for uncovering hidden stories, arrived at the hotel on a crisp autumn evening. She had booked Room 13 out of curiosity, intrigued by the rumors of eerie reflections and unexplained phenomena. Zoe was known for her fearless pursuit of the unknown, driven by a desire to expose the truth behind legends and myths. Her colleagues often marveled at her ability to uncover secrets, but this would be her most personal investigation yet. The hotel lobby was grand, with marble floors and high ceilings adorned with intricate chandeliers. Zoe checked in, her excitement barely contained as she received the key to room 13. The receptionist, an elderly woman with a knowing look, handed over the antique brass key and offered a cryptic warning. Beware the mirror in room 13. It has a way of showing more than you'd expect. Zoe's curiosity only grew as she made her way to the room, her footsteps echoing down the ornate hallways. Room 13 was a blend of elegance and age, with dark wood paneling and an antique mirror that dominated one wall. The mirror, framed in ornate gold, seemed oddly out of place in the modernized room. Zoe's initial impression was one of fascination, though a chill ran down her spine as she noticed the mirror's surface was slightly cloudy, as if it had been neglected for years. That night, as Zoe prepared for bed, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror. Her image seemed to shift subtly, a slight distortion in the edges of her reflection. She brushed it off as a trick of the light and retired for the night. At midnight, Zoe was jolted awake by a faint whispering. The voices were indistinct, a murmur that seemed to come from within the walls. The temperature in the room had dropped significantly, and Zoe could see her breath misting in the cold air. She turned on the bedside lamp and stared at the mirror, where her reflection now appeared to be subtly smiling, its features twisting unnaturally. The following day, Zoe began her investigation. She ventured to the hotel's library, hoping to find historical records or accounts related to room 13. The hotel manager, a reserved man named Thomas, was reluctant to divulge much information, but eventually mentioned that there had been a series of inexplicable events associated with the room. According to old records, Room 13 had once been the residence of a wealthy guest, Margaret Wren, who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Her disappearance was never solved, and rumors circulated about her tragic end. Zoe felt a growing sense of unease, but was determined to uncover the truth. In the library, Zoe found an old journal that detailed strange occurrences in the hotel, focusing particularly on Room 13. The entries spoke of a sinister presence that seemed to feed off fear and despair. As Zoe read through the journal, she realized that the mirror in Room 13 was central to the entity's power, serving as a gateway to a nightmarish realm. That evening, Zoe returned to Room 13. Armed with her findings, she planned to confront whatever malevolent force lurked within the mirror. As night fell, she set up a video camera to document any strange occurrences. Around midnight, the whispers returned, louder and more coherent. Zoe watched in horror as the mirror's surface began to ripple, and her reflection twisted into a grotesque parody of itself. The malevolent presence behind the mirror seemed to grow more active, its influence extending into the room. The reflections became increasingly disturbing, revealing glimpses of a grim past where guests had met grisly ends. Zoe's heart raced as she saw flashes of Margaret Wren's final moments. Her face twisted in terror as she was pulled into the mirror's dark dimension. Desperate for answers, Zoe sought help from a local historian, Dr. Elizabeth Harper, who specialized in paranormal phenomena. Elizabeth was intrigued by Zoe's findings and agreed to investigate Room 13. Together, they conducted a seance to communicate with the spirit trapped within the mirror. During the seance, the room was filled with an oppressive energy. The mirror's surface darkened and a spectral figure emerged, its face twisted in a malevolent grin. The entity identified itself as a trapped soul, seeking release by consuming the identities of those who came too close. Elizabeth revealed that the mirror was a portal to a dimension where the past and present collided, feeding on the fears of those who gazed into it. The entity was a remnant of a dark ritual performed by Margaret Wren, who had been attempting to transcend her mortal existence, but had instead become a prisoner in the mirror. Zoe and Elizabeth devised a plan to sever the connection between the mirror and the entity. They gathered materials for a ritual to cleanse the mirror's dark energy and destroy its power. The final confrontation was intense. As they performed the ritual, the mirror's reflections became more chaotic, revealing the true nature of the entity. The malevolent presence was not just a haunting force, but a manifestation of the room's dark history and the unresolved tragedies it held. The confrontation reached its climax as Zoe and Elizabeth fought to break the mirror's hold. With a final collective effort, they shattered the glass, severing the connection between worlds. The malevolent presence let out a piercing wail as it was pulled back into the mirror's dimension. The aftermath of the confrontation left Room 13 in disarray. The mirror, now shattered and removed, was a haunting reminder of the ordeal. Zoe and Elizabeth were left to process the events and the impact they had on their lives. The Grand Oak Boutique Hotel continued to operate, but Room 13 remained closed, a silent witness to the horrors it had once contained. Zoe's experience had changed her forever, and she carried the weight of the mirror's malevolent presence with her. As the years passed, the story of Room 13 became a legend, a chilling reminder of how the past can resurface and impact the present. The Grand Oak Boutique Hotel remained a place of beauty and mystery, with the echoes of its dark history lingering in the reflections of its past. The Grand Hotel loomed over the city skyline, its once decaying exterior now gleaming with fresh paint and polished glass. The reopening of the luxurious hotel was the talk of the town, with an air of anticipation mingling with whispers of its dark past. Among the curious guests was Jessica Mitchell, a 32-year-old travel blogger and freelance journalist with a penchant for uncovering hidden stories. With her long auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and a determined glint in her green eyes, Jessica was driven by more than mere curiosity. She sought to explore and document the supernatural. As she checked into the hotel, Jessica couldn't ignore the faint chill that seemed to linger around the reception area. Her attention was immediately drawn to the old brass key with the number 1313 engraved on it. It was meant to be a symbol of good luck, but it felt ominous to her. Jessica had been assigned room 1313, a room on the newly reopened 13th floor. The hotel's reopening had coincided with the unsealing of this long-sealed floor, which had been rumored to hold dark secrets from its past life as a sanatorium. That night, as Jessica settled into her room, she admired the blend of opulence and old-world charm, the antique furnishings, the intricate moldings, and the large ornate mirror on the wall. Despite the elegance of the room, Jessica felt a shiver run down her spine as she gazed into the mirror. It seemed to cast a shadow that didn't quite fit the rest of the room. After a long day of exploring the hotel's luxurious amenities, Jessica finally went to bed. She was soon awoken by faint whispers seeping through the walls, soft, mournful murmurs that seemed to speak of pain and despair. Tossing and turning, Jessica tried to dismiss the sounds as the result of an overactive imagination. However, when she glanced at the mirror, she was startled to see a spectral figure standing behind her reflection, its eyes hollow and its mouth twisted into a menacing grin. The next morning, Jessica felt drained but attributed it to lack of sleep. She ventured downstairs to meet some fellow guests. Among them was Robert Hale, a historian specializing in architectural preservation, and Linda Summers, a travel enthusiast who shared Jessica's interest in the supernatural. The three bonded over their mutual curiosity about the hotel's history. Jessica recounted her unsettling experience in room 1313. Robert, intrigued, offered to assist in researching the hotel's past. Linda, equally fascinated, agreed to join them. As they delved into the hotel's archives, they uncovered chilling records of the sanatorium era. The 13th floor had been used for experimental treatments on patients deemed incurable by the staff. The experiments were brutal, involving untested procedures and psychological torture, leading to numerous deaths and unexplained disappearances. Returning to her room, Jessica found the mirror even more unsettling. The once faint figure was now more pronounced, mimicking her every move with an eerie precision. Desperate for answers, she discovered an old journal hidden behind the mirror. The journal belonged to Dr. Albert Finch, the chief psychiatrist of the sanatorium. Dr. Finch's writings detailed his obsession with creating a portal to another realm, a place where the souls of his patients could be trapped, allowing him to experiment on their spirits. The journal was filled with disturbing sketches and notes about the gateway he had opened, a gateway that, according to Finch, was hidden in room 1313. As the days went by, the manifestations grew more frequent and terrifying. Guests reported similar experiences, haunting dreams, glimpses of shadowy figures, and the sensation of being watched. The once grand hotel became a maze of fear and paranoia. Jessica, Robert, and Linda's investigation led them to a chilling revelation. Dr. Finch's experiments had succeeded beyond his wildest nightmares. The 13th floor was a gateway to a dimension where the spirits of the tormented souls were imprisoned, and the barrier between their world and the present was weakening. Jessica's encounters with the mirror became more intense. The reflections of the spectral figure now showed scenes of gruesome experiments and tortured patients. The entity seemed to reach out from the mirror, pulling at the edges of Jessica's sanity. She felt a growing sense of dread as her own reflection began to distort, its malevolent grin widening. Meanwhile, Robert and Linda experienced their own horrors. Robert was haunted by visions of the patients from the sanatorium, their tortured faces appearing in the shadows. Linda's dreams were filled with cryptic messages from the spirits, warning her of an impending catastrophe. The three friends realized they were running out of time. Determined to end the nightmare, Jessica, Robert, and Linda devised a plan to close the gateway. They needed to find the exact location of the portal on the 13th floor and perform a ritual to seal it shut. Armed with the knowledge from Dr. Finch's journal and their own research, they prepared for the confrontation. As they entered room 1313 for the final time, the atmosphere was suffused with an oppressive darkness. The mirror, now a focal point of malevolence, seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. The spirits of the tortured souls began to materialize, their anguished cries filling the air. The gateway was open, and the boundary between worlds was dissolving. The trio gathered around the mirror, reciting the incantations from Dr. Finch's journal. The ritual was arduous, requiring both physical and mental strength to withstand the torment of the spirits. The air grew colder, and the mirror's surface warped as the entities tried to resist the sealing. Jessica, despite her fear, remained resolute. Her voice faltered but held firm as she completed the incantation. The mirror began to crack, and the room was filled with a blinding light. The spirit's cries grew fainter as the gateway began to close. In a final, desperate attempt, Dr. Finch's spirit lunged at Jessica, but she stood her ground, channeling her fear into a powerful surge of energy. When the light faded and the mirror was finally shattered, the oppressive darkness lifted. The hotel's 13th floor was eerily silent. The spirits were gone and the gateway was sealed. Jessica, Robert, and Linda were left exhausted but relieved. The hotel resumed its normal operations, and room 1313 was permanently sealed. Jessica documented the events and shared her findings with the world, but the experience left an indelible mark on her. The luxury hotel was now known not only for its grandeur, but also for the dark secrets that lay beneath its surface. As she left the hotel for the last time, Jessica looked back at the imposing building. The grandeur of the hotel remained, but she knew that its history would forever be tainted by the shadows that had once lurked within. The mirror, now destroyed, had revealed the horrors of the past, and Jessica had faced the darkness with unwavering courage. The Grand Hotel continued to thrive, its reputation as a luxurious retreat intact. Yet whispers of its haunted past persisted among those who dared to explore its depths. Room 1313 remained a silent testament to the horrors that once dwelled within, a reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the nightmares that lie just beyond. Jessica's story became a legend, a chilling account of how curiosity and bravery confronted the malevolent forces of the past. Her journey had been harrowing, but it had also illuminated the darkness, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the shadows.
That's a wrap on tonight's horrors. We hope you managed to keep your fears in check as we journeyed through eerie hotel rooms. If these tales left you on edge, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. For more spine-tingling stories and bone-chilling mysteries, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of our nocturnal nightmares. Sleep tight if you can, and remember, the darkest fears are often the ones we least expect. Stay scared and see you next time.